Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Friesen, and this is Artful Aging with Amy. Here on the show and with my company Tea and Toast, the conversation of how to help aging parents often comes up. It can be difficult as adult children don't want to parent their parents, but oftentimes have either issues come up with their parents or things that they can foresee happening. And a lot of tough conversations are in the works that need to happen. And so it's always kind of a tug of war between parents and their adult children when the roles get a little bit reversed. So that's always a sticking point that we often bring up when we're talking to caregivers or other professionals. Today on our show, I'm speaking with author and physical therapist Teresa Moerer. In Teresa's book, The Art of Assisting Aging Parents, Teresa looks to how to build strategies and the frameworks around caring for aging parents. As a caregiver herself, Teresa has seen firsthand the trials and tribulations of helping her parents age artfully while remaining present in their own life. Welcome, Teresa. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here.
Maybe we could start off by, could you tell our viewers a little bit more about you and what inspired you to become an author?
Sure. Yes, during my physical therapy career, I was always very, concerned with personal development. And of course, and I'm working with pain and function and things like that. But I also wanted to see my patients develop personally so they could go on to like a higher quality and higher level of function. So, during these years, and I've been doing this for 37 years, but I gained, I kind of pulled out some tools and techniques and strategies that I thought were really working with people and that really resonated with them. And one of them was actually group therapy, and where we worked in groups together. And now, even with, having this pandemic and losing our face-to-face interactions, I can see even how it works, even stronger to promote health and wellness. So that's what I did. And this was about 15 years ago when I found that this worked. I started putting a framework around it. And that eventually, took me into writing a book about it because I just saw the need out there. And I thought, I've got something to share. I have this method. I believe in it so much. And, when I was kind of developing it, it wasn't really mainstream. But I think the great thing about it is it's kind of becoming mainstream now. Some of these things I'm talking about, it's not, it's not like a foreign language to people. It's like they get it and they know that it works. And so I'm excited. I think the timing is really good to bring this to people so they can start using it.
That's excellent. I always find that, when I wrote my book a couple of years ago, I was looking around and around. You're in the States and I'm in Canada. And so there was a bit more information in the States than there was in Canada, but still not very much at all. And so I was looking at, for caregiver specific, there's a lot of self-help stuff. There's a lot of, stuff that's in the realm, but not a lot in this realm. And so I was excited to add something to it. And I'm always excited. That's why I reached out to you, because when I find other authors that are writing on this topic, I want to scream it from the rooftops, firstly, because I think that this stuff is so valuable and it's readily available in book form, right? So, the more resources we can get to people, I think the better. And then they can pick and choose. But we've had a number of authors on the show because I just think that there's so little physical information in the industry that, the more we can get it out, the better. I find. Did you find when you wrote your book, you were adding obviously to the conversation, but were you also having a little bit of trouble finding other things kind of similar of yours?
Yes, I think so. And actually just, being in the industry and working with families and patients, I knew a lot about it. But yeah, when I was helping my sisters take care of my mom, people were coming up to us because she was kind of in a facility that was in the neighborhood, so we had a lot of friends there, but they were coming up to us and saying, what do I do with my aging parents? And so I was just like, there's got to be more information out there for this. And I think, unfortunately, people wait until something happens. And I would say it's not that we don't want to take care of our parents, but we're very, very busy. We're raising children. We might have a job. We're trying to, take care of our family and our home. And, we really don't want to, in a way, I'm not saying we don't want to take care of our parents, but we just don't want to put that on our list of things to do. So, it happens to be when dad falls down the stairs and breaks his hip. That's when we have to respond, So I'm thinking, and I know we're going to go kind of get into this, but really, what I have is a proactive aging process, and now I'm finding out really, and I'm learning, like you said, I am learning so much more about my health and how to, preserve my body and my brain. And I just want to say that, this proactive aging process that I'm putting in my book and I'm teaching is really is really, we want to be proactive with our aging because, you don't want to wait till the last minute to be that caregiver.
It's true. And I and my team at Tea and Toast, we speak to caregivers all the time about not waiting till crisis, plan, be proactive. I mean, this is what I say on almost every one of my shows as well. And, it's true that like a lot of people that come to us are in crisis mode, and the other ones that come to us are waiting for the crisis. They come to us, to plan, but then they wait it out, and then they wait it out too long and they're in crisis. And so, it's this fine mix of stuff, but you're right. It's hard to add another tick list to our own personal list, but also, taking care of your parents means different things for everybody, and somebody's list could have one or two things and another person's list could have 40 things, and it's hard to know what to do, and it's hard to know where to look and where to start and all that stuff. And so all of that stuff makes people overwhelmed, and it can be very difficult for many people, although I've been told multiple times caregiving is very rewarding. Like a lot of caregivers have said that, but that doesn't mean it's not difficult. It can be both, right? And so how do we, as professionals and caregivers, share our experience so that people can be better prepared for their journeys? As I mentioned at the top of the show, we discuss caregiving quite a bit. So I thought it would be really good for you to come on as an expert as well as a family caregiver. There are a lot of people who listen who have aging parents that are feeling overwhelmed and what's like happening or what's about to happen. Everybody's kind of on the edge and they don't know when things are going to happen. And there's also a lot of seniors in our audience that haven't really made very many plans for their own life and their possible future obstacles. So it's important, I think, for them to hear this too. And if anything, the seniors in our audience, it's important for them to hear that there's a lot of things that the caregivers, their adult children, have to take care of on their behalf. And so kind of whatever they can help with lessens the burden on their kids as well, which is a message that we talk about all the time. But maybe we could talk about how can caregivers get through the overwhelm and begin the process of helping their parents age artfully. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah. And the overwhelm, and I will address that first, and then I'll address on how to maybe avoid the overwhelm, But if you are in that stage of overwhelm, there's a few things you need to do. You need to reach out to your family, to your siblings, and have that team meeting, and just say, and have an agenda. And I tell people, tell your siblings to leave the drama at home, and have specific things you want to talk about and specific goals. And you need to get everybody on board, because this state of overwhelm, you need help. So really, put your pride aside and ask for help. So, start with your siblings if you have them, then, and even like neighbors, friends, and just say, this is a situation I'm in. I might need a little bit of help. And they might start offering, well, can I bring over a meal? Can I take your parents to the doctor? Can I, in some way help you? Because this is truly a state where you're not able to do it all. Reach out to the medical professionals and say, how can you help me with my parent? Can we function? Can they function at a higher level? Why are they falling? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Ask the question. So that's, when you get into overwhelm, you just need to start reaching out and, get all the professionals, friends, family on board and make a plan, to get through this. And then I'll kind of talk about when you get there, how to get through this.
Absolutely. It's also too, I just recently posted something on my social media about asking for help because it's really difficult for many people to ask for help. Me as a business owner, I'm always kind of doing things on my own, and so I have had to recently ask for help, and it was uncomfortable to say the least. And so I think there's a lot of people that are just super not comfortable with that. And so really, making a list to figure out what they need. And I love that you had mentioned too, how, if the siblings are involved, everybody leave their stuff at home and come with a goal of assisting your parents. Because a lot of, old drama, old fights, things like that come up. But at the end of the day, you need to take care of, like, the goal of this meeting is to take care of your parents. And so it doesn't really matter what happened in the past. It really matters, how do we progress from here. So I love that you talk about it as well, because we also do as well. And as we both know, as professionals and caregivers, many caregivers are not taking care of themselves properly. And like you said, you're learning things, I'm learning things all the time. Often, caregivers fill their time with everyone else. How would you suggest caregivers take care of themselves in order to not only be practicing self-care and refilling their own cup, but also to be a better caregiver for their aging loved ones?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, in my book, people ask me, well, is it for the aging parent or is it for the caregiver? And really, I say, you can't separate it. It is something you do together. You have to take care of yourself first as a caregiver, or you will have nothing to give to others. And my proactive aging process, which I call it Experiage, because I'm a big believer in experiences. That, from birth on, experiences teach us, how to live and what to do. So I that's what I do as a therapist. I build these exceptional experiences for my patients. And, then I kind of back off and I monitor and I assist, but I let them have the experience so they learn, what to do. So my book goes over 7 health strategies that are really non-negotiable. So for you as a caregiver, you need to have the nutrition, the hydration, the sleep, the meditation and mindfulness, the exercise for your body and your brain, and the breathing. Now, these are essential for your health. And what I say is, it doesn't need to be almost like it doesn't need to be self-care. It needs to be a part of your lifestyle. When it becomes a part of your lifestyle, you're doing everything you can for yourself as a caregiver. And you don't go into the future with, all this caregiver guilt. It's like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough. I'm not helping them enough. No, you are. You're taking care of yourself, and you're, trying to actually take these, health strategies and help your parents with them. So that is one thing I teach in my book. And I really recommend that you start with the middle age. Like if you're in your 40s and your parents are in your 60s, it's a great time to start, kind of almost looking at the baseline of, how am I functioning and how's my parent functioning? Say if you're both functioning great, you're both active, healthy, just continue what you're doing. But if you're seeing some red flags and saying, okay, my parent is in the recliner all day long, or my parent, all they do is eat junk food. This will come back to them as possibly a chronic illness in the future. So you want to look at these things and start making changes. And, that's what we just need to do to live healthy, is make these changes in our lifestyle. And we, like I said, we just not only do that for us, but we also do it for our parents, help them.
Well, and I feel that, if we set our, like, as caregivers now, most of the caregivers that I work with are, 40 to 60, let's call it, the adult children caregivers. And, by setting ourselves up now, making sure our mental health is, as well as we can get, our physical and all of that stuff, I feel like that sets us up to be better at being seniors as well. Whereas a lot of the seniors that I'm talking to now didn't have, we've progressed as a society so quickly, right? And we've had all these extra mental health things happening and all this stuff. And they didn't have that at an age that we are so that they could integrate it into their life. And so some people that are seniors now are learning all that stuff. But I feel like as caregivers, this also sets us up for our senior years as well, which I think is obviously super beneficial because you're not going backwards either. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your 4-step method in your book, but do you have any thoughts about, there's a lot of people that come to us that have parents that are super stubborn. I know that you've probably heard and maybe been in that position as well, perhaps, but super stubborn, not eating well, not taking care of themselves. Do we have any advice that we can offer them, caregivers or professionally? Have you come across this?
Yes. And actually, it's kind of in my 4-step method. It kind of encompasses some of this. And what I help people do, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but basically, if you can help your parents find their strengths and their life vision. We all have to have something to get out of bed in the morning for. We have to have a purpose. If you have no purpose, you kind of stop living. So I think it's just an intrinsic motivator to find that purpose. Now, and I say too, like if your parent has never meditated before and they're just saying, I'm not going to have any part of meditation, I don't want to do it. You can just set up a room for them that they might be able to recline and you're laid down and turn on some, classical music or something that relaxes them. And they'll probably naturally start the deep breathing. It can be just a natural thing. Or take them out into nature. Nature is a tonic for health, things like that you might have to find. Or, another thing like mindfulness is a form of meditation, and even maybe cooking a meal together and, just really slowing it down, paying attention to what you're doing. And that mindfulness, it actually builds your brain, which is your hippocampus, and that's responsible for learning and memory. So like I said, all of these things play into your health, but I find creative ways to add these to people's daily routines instead of just saying, okay, you need to sit in this chair and do your deep breathing for 15 minutes. There's other ways to do it. So I think that's what I would do is, if you're getting the stubbornness, for one thing, find the life vision, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, and set some goals. Set some goals that are meaningful for your parents that they want to work on. And that's kind of how I get around the stubbornness of people.
Perfect. And I also find too, as an added part of that, there's some of us that have other, like stubbornness is one thing. So it's, sometimes it's just the kid and the parent can't have that conversation, and that's why professionals operate in this world, right? So that's even in past things in my life or whatever, sometimes it's like, okay, somebody else is going to have to take this conversation on because I could say the same things, but it's not going to come across the same way. And so to the extreme, sometimes it's a matter of just bringing somebody else in to have that conversation on your behalf or with you or whatnot. I find that happens to a lot of our caregivers because we help people find, retirement living, senior living. And sometimes that conversation is not easy, and it's way easier if we have it with the parents than the kids do, for instance. Right. So you get a lot further, but
that's true.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We've touched on your book a number of times. So let's talk about the 4-step method to better help your parents. Could you give us kind of like a high level overview of these concepts? And I believe that you also offer training called Experiage. Can you tell us about that as well?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. And I'll just throw in one thing too with what we just talked about, Amy. And it's, maybe even late, print off an article or something that might have to do with nutrition or exercise, and just lay it on the table, and hopefully they'll pick it up and maybe start reading it. Or that would just be an additional, out or a source for them. But yeah, for my training, the first step is fine. It's like who am I, or who I am. And so you're going to help your parents find their strengths. And I have a certain way I teach this. I teach intelligences and how to find the strong intelligences and the weak intelligences. But to kind of maybe even simplify that a little bit, I have people, sit down with them and talk about, maybe even have your parents tell you some stories of their past, and you can help them pick out their strengths. When we get busy in life, they've been probably raising a family, they've had jobs, they're in retirement, they're slowing down, they may not feel well, and they forget about their, who they are and what their strengths are. So we kind of, work on that. And, from the strengths, you're going to find the weaknesses. And just as an example, sometimes I'll be working with somebody in the clinic, and I give them some directions for an exercise, and I realize they have no idea where their body is in space. And that's called the kinesthetic intelligence. So when I pick up on that, then I start adding exercises to help them, and increase that awareness. And really within a few weeks, they have much better body awareness, which is going to help with decreased falls and maybe a little bit of increased energy and things like that. So it's really important to help your parents find their strengths. Now, if you only have 5 minutes a week, I give you, suggestions on how to take that 5 minutes and make the most out of them. If you have a half an hour to sit down with them and chat, that's great, and I think they will appreciate that and the attention. So anyway, find the strengths. Step number 2 is helping them find that life vision. And you could even, help them bring up, well, Dad, you used to love, the sports team, or Mom, you were a baker and you love to cook for people, and you were involved in this nonprofit. How can we bring that back into your life? How can we spark that life vision again, and that purpose in life? So we find that life vision, and then we start setting goals. And I give the example of maybe your parent wants to go to a family reunion and it's out of town, So, set that goal and say, hey, let's plan on you going to this reunion in September. Now, what do we need to do to get there? And so, just figuring out where, you might have to go up some steps. You're going to have activity tolerance for a half of a day, or, you're going to have to tolerate a 3-hour car ride, and, just starting to talk about these things and setting some goals. What do we need to do to get there? And that's where sometimes your professionals can come in. And as a physical therapist, I would be giving you a program that would help you, help your parent to do the right exercises to get there. And it may be to something totally different. Maybe, you could get your parents involved with their friends again, or groups of people that they can connect to and actually kind of find and live that purpose again. So that would be the second step. The third step is actually setting up those concrete activities, like I talked about. A lot of times we keep so many things in our head. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it. This is the right thing to do. But until we act on that, we really don't make any progress, physically or mentally. So that third step is actually putting everything into action. And so you can kind of help your parents set up this program, or maybe even go through their cupboards and take out all the junk food and give them some, maybe some healthy recipes. Teach your parents how to breathe well. And there's all kinds of YouTube videos on deep breathing, but it really changes your life when you breathe well. It really does. It helps you sleep better. There's just so many things that these very simple and inexpensive health strategies, work on. And finally, that fourth step is assessing and reassessing. Because, maybe by this time your parent, the weakness they had is not there anymore. And they're able to set different goals, or the weakness is getting worse. And, you need to address that through professionals, or maybe there's nothing you can do, and maybe it's just a time for acceptance of some of that. So, it's constantly, and that's what I love about my job as a therapist. I get to evaluate people all the time. I'm always assessing. I'm always reassessing. I'm always setting new goals. And that's fun for me. I really like that. So that's the program, and it just keeps revolving and revolving as you gain things, you lose things, you change it up. So yeah,
super valuable. Thank you for sharing. I specifically really do like step 4, the reassessment, because a lot of people put plans and processes in and then they just assume that everything is going to stay the same, right? And they don't reevaluate to see what's happening. And then it's like, okay, well, did you check this? Oh, well, that wasn't a problem before. And so the reassessment is so important, right? And just to stay on top, because we're going towards, we're planning, we're being proactive, we're going towards goals. But you're right. Goalposts change. You might be going towards one goal and you might get there. You might be going towards another one and then deem that you've changed your mind. It's not, appropriate or whatever. And sometimes you don't know that stuff until you start doing things towards that direction. So I think it's super important that you point that out as well. Teresa, I always like to talk about misconceptions because I come across them so much. My team comes across them with all of our clients. There's, misconceptions are kind of about everything, and Artful Aging is all about showing people their support, giving people some direction and answers. So what have you found to be some of the main misconceptions, either from caregivers or their aging parents, around planning and aging artfully?
I think there are some steps that, they just forget about. And I know, like, I have, friends in the industry that do things totally different from me. They take care of, the finances, the legal things, and that. So, just know that this is all important. So maybe a misconception is, well, we can just wait on this issue, but really it is important that if your parents don't have control of, their future, to kind of step in and help them a little bit with that. I think the misconception is too, like, I don't need to help my parents. And then when that crisis happens, it just really throws everybody off, So maybe even having that family meeting, before mom and dad get sick, and saying, who's got what resources do you have? Do you have financial resources? Do you have time? Do you have a talent? Are you a professional that can do, what can you do to help, and maybe just even getting that, set up a little bit earlier. But I think it's something we just don't really think about until we have to think about it. And I think that's another misconception. It's proactive aging really adds to the quality of life. And really, I know at the end, and I was able to spend a couple years with my mom at the end of her life, helping my sisters take care of her. And, you just find out that, when your parents pass away, you just live on the memories. And if you have those aging years to continue to make memories with your parents, it's a real spiritual kind of thing. Like, it feeds you as a person to know that you had that time with your parents. And, although I know, not every time is going to be a wonderful time, but, you can try to make them as, the best treasured memories you can.
Well, and it's super valuable to, have those years, sure, yeah, not everything is peachy keen, but at the same time, if you can prevent or be planning for stuff and you don't have the major dips like a giant roller coaster, it makes everybody's life so much more peaceful, I think. And so that's always beneficial. I thought we could end today. Do we have any ways that people can be proactive? I like to talk about one or two ways that things people can do. I know we talked about a couple of them, but can we sum up maybe a couple of ways or small things that people can do to keep their journey going with their aging loved ones, to be proactive? What do you have for us, Teresa?
Well, yeah, I would say, try to take some baselines of where you're at and where your parents are. And, start adding these, simple steps every day, changing up your lifestyle and hopefully changing up your parents' lifestyle. And then, just maybe like every 6 months, look at that and see how far you've come. And, give yourself a pat on the back, for every win you have, even if it's a small win, celebrate it. Celebrate your wins, and that'll keep you going. Try not to be, too negative or hard on yourself during this period. It can be rough. And I do think even a misconception is, oh, my family and siblings, we're so close and this is going to be so easy, and that can be a big misconception because it's not. And have some time with your family that's fun. Have a get together where you don't talk about mom and dad. Keep your relationships close. And I think then, when all is said and done, that you'll end up with a strong family unit. And that's really what you do want in the end. You don't want to be bitter, and you don't want to be resentful, against them. So I would just, and that way, be proactive too, to try to keep your family, strong and just be, with that devotion towards your parents.
Yeah. For sure. And like you said, add some fun, have some fun as a family. It's not all about planning all the time. It's not all about crisis and how to stay out of it and healthcare and all that stuff. I think it's important, said to another person who was on my show the other day, to take the pictures, right? Take the pictures, enjoy yourself. And then you also have these memories, which is lovely. So it's not all planning and crisis all the time. So make sure that people enjoy their lives. Teresa, thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Could you tell our viewers how they could get a hold of you?
Yes, you can find my website at teresamoerer.com. And you can get a hold of me there. I do teach class courses. I have a course called Boss. Now it's like escaping me. Boss, caregiver. It's escaping me right now. I just out of my mind. But no, I teach my book, and so in 6 weeks you'll learn my book. If you want that, one-on-one feedback and kind of more hands-on. And I do that. And it's really, it's a kind of, and I also want to say, like, my program is for peak performance. So if you want to think about it that way, and, everybody wants to be at their highest level, it's something that you can do that it is really beneficial.
Perfect. Well, as we said, Teresa's book, The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. I grabbed mine on Amazon. I saw it on a couple different spots. So definitely available. Get your copy if you're interested. I think it's super valuable. There's a lot of readers, right? And even I'm not much of a reader, but this is the stuff I'm drawn to professionally as well, right? And so I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing all of your knowledge. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Amy. It's been a pleasure.
That's all for today, folks. If you found today valuable and helpful, please share with your networks. Remember, support's only one conversation away, and by sharing with your networks, it allows other caregivers and families to get the support they need. Thanks again for joining me on Artful Aging with Amy. From me to all of you, I hope that you have a wonderful Wednesday.